Thank everybody for joining us today. Today we're going to be covering succession planning, and we're going to jump right into this. So let me go ahead and switch over to my browser here. Just give me a moment. All right, so succession planning. So a lot of this is actually going to happen, like many of our things here, on the administrative side. The employee themselves is not going to really see anything in self-service. What you can show in self-service is a career map that kind of would let employees know what they might need to do if they want to move up into a higher position. And I believe we covered this in a previous session here, so you can go back and revisit that. I'll show you where that would be for the employee to see that. They can come over here into their career and go to my career path. So you could set this up and say, all right, if you're starting off, let's say at accounts payable, what's it going to take if you would like to move all the way up the food chain, all the way to CEO or CFO or something like that? You can create a career path for employees for any position you would like. It does not necessarily need to be the same as a succession planning, because succession planning you may want to just have for your C-suite or for your high flight risk employees, not necessarily, let's say, for accounts payable, but maybe higher up the food chain. So this allows you to kind of look from the bottom up, from the employee position up. But we're going to today look at from the position down to the successor position. So we'll go over to administration to do this. While I'm coming over here, I do want to remind everybody we do have a Q&A as well as a chat. So if you do have any questions on this, we are monitoring that, and we can go ahead and answer those questions for you. Now, of course, my company here is a fictional company. Yours might look different as far as the codes and the titles and so forth. But I'm going to look at the Chief Financial Officer position here. So what you'll do is you'll go to your positions in HR. That's how you get there. And click on the position where you would like to do the succession planning. Now, there's going to be some other things that we need to set up as well, but I want to show you here as an example. All right, to enable the succession plan, you'll see here where I have to check off this box saying that is a key position. This is where I was saying you may not need to do this for every position, but definitely for the ones where you want to look for those people who might be able to move into this position if somebody were to leave. So like a CFO, a C-suite, maybe management, that type of thing, where you might have this. So first off, you can identify the risk of flight. So the person who's currently in this position or the people who might be in this position, what would be your determination of the turnover? If somebody just moved into the position, it might be a low risk. If somebody's nearing retirement age, it might be, high or critical risk, depending on what you feel there. Of course, you can set this up however you like. Let's just say my situation is high risk. All right, what would be the impact of loss? So if the current occupant of this position leaves, what's it going to do to the company? So, of course, just like the flight risk, you do have low, medium, high, and critical. So if you lost your CFO, that would probably be pretty high impact there. So let's go ahead and put that at high. Of course, you could make it as critical if you needed to, whatever makes sense for that position. Okay, and then here are the positions that are going to go into being a successor for this. So what I would do is I would select one or more positions that you're going to look through for people who have who are going to be like looked at for successors. So I might say accounting supervisor, I might say accounting manager, whatever it is that I'm going to do. I'll just do accounting supervisor, and let's see if I have another one here. I think I have an accounting manager. Maybe I don't. Let's do. Just want to pick two of them. Merchandise. You know what? I'm going to do accounts payable because that's where I know I have at least one person in there. All right, so I've got two positions here. Of course, you can have as many as you like, whatever makes the most sense for you. So, but this is going to allow you to look at who is the positions you're going to look for when you go to add people into here, the internal people into the succession plan. So you'll add one or more positions into here. Now, the other piece of this is going to be in recruiting. Under this recruiting tab, you're going to have competencies and skills that you're going to be looking to have in your system here, that you're going to say, okay, if I look at those people in those successor positions, do they have these competencies and skills, or perhaps they need to get additional training, that kind of stuff. So it'll allow you to look at that. So I'm going to go ahead and just save this for now and go over where you would set up the competencies and skills if you haven't done that before. So that's going to be in your settings. All right. And here you'll see skills. I'll just start right here is skills. And you'll see I have a number of skills in my system here. You can have as many skills as you like. This is something that can be imported as well. So if you would like to, have a nice spreadsheet of these skills, maybe you downloaded a list from somewhere and you want to add them to your system because you don't have anything now, you can add them into the system. Now, before you can add something, you do need to set up these skill categories. You'll notice that it is a required field when I go to add a skill. So if you don't have the category in here, you're going to want to add it. So maybe, financial competency is a skill category you're looking to add in here, then you need to add that first. Where does that get added? Let me go over to another tab just so I can show you. And that would be under your code tables. And when I come into here, I scroll down under the user code tables, I have skill category right here. All right, so you can simply add that here. Let's say I want to add financial skills or something like that. Say fin as the code there and financial skills. So an example there, of course, you could do it in multiple languages if you want to do that. It's active, can't use it unless it's active. And I would just go ahead and hit save there. All right, now the other thing you may have is skill levels. This is when you add the skill to the employee, or if you do this as part of the whole learning management piece and they take a certain course and now they have a certain expertise level at that skill, you can set these up. This is not necessarily needed for what we're doing today, but just it's there, might as well talk about it real quick. So you can set up whatever you like here. Maybe you're just going to say skilled, unskilled, doesn't really matter. You can put whatever you like as the skills here. If you want to get very granular like I have, maybe you've got a 0 to 5. So back over to here, let me go ahead and add something in here. I'll choose, let me hit refresh so I can get that new financial one out there. Okay, so financial skills, and let's just say using an ERP. All right, I'm not going to be specific about which one, but they have skills in using an ERP. And I'm going to do another one here just so you can see here. I'll say month end closing. All right. So a couple of skills I put in there. Of course, they don't necessarily have to be financial skills. I could choose any skill I want. So let's say we want our CFO to know Spanish or German. I could add those skills in there. Anything I'd like to put in there, I could put in skills. All right. So that's how you would do that. Now, competencies are the other thing. Okay. Now, competencies, and these things tie over to performance reviews if you're going to use that. So these may be something specifically for performance reviews, or they might be used in performance and in succession planning, or they might just be succession planning. So you could do whatever you would like here as far as your different competencies. Now, again, we have a required field here called competency group. I have a whole bunch already configured here, but those again would be set up in your code tables. You would see competency groups. So again, you may want to add things over here to group them up in a certain way that makes the most sense to you. We did go into detail on this when we did the performance review one, so we did talk about these previously, but you'd want to add these types of things in here. So maybe managerial aptitude would be good an example. You'll see your stressful situations, whatever it happens to be, you can add those types of things in there. All right, so you'll see I've got a whole bunch already configured here. All right, now if I'd like to edit one, I could click on this. So I could just say like management material here. Now it says candidate. That's just the way I have mine configured there. So I might want to just say like person is able to, something like that. All right, so you get an idea of how these work here. When you're setting up a competency, the group and the name are required, the description is not. So maybe you'll say attention to detail, error checking maybe is the name. Person is able to perform with minimal errors. Whatever it happens to be is your description. Now, of course, this again is something that you could import. So in our system configuration here under data import, you can import in skills, you can import in competencies if you'd like to do that. So you could do that here under import if you have a whole list. Perhaps you've downloaded one from somewhere, or you just like working on spreadsheets. You can import these if you'd like to put them in, or enter them in as I did manually there. All right, so once you have your skills and competencies set up, now you can go back to the succession planning here to actually put them on that position that you're planning for. Of course, you might have multiple positions you're doing it for, but I'm doing it just for CFO. And here we go, under recruiting, I've got my competencies and skills, and I could just add them in here, whichever ones I like here. I could, of course, search up here for those things. And let's see, let's see, where did that go? I don't even remember the name of them there. I don't see. I'm just going to select this one and these two right there. All right, so those are the two I was, or this is the one I was checking for error checking, and there's other ones out here for this, but I'll go ahead and just select those like that, as many as you like in here. All right, skills. So I already have a couple in here. Let me go ahead and just look at other skills here. I'll do that financial skills and month-end closing. This is where that level comes into play. Here you go, none specified or whatever. Let's just say month-end closing, I got to be superior at that. And I'll add one more here, that using an ERP, they need to be superior at doing that. Of course, you don't necessarily have to have them all superior. They can be whatever level makes sense to you. And I'll go ahead and submit that. So now that I have this configured here, I can now search through my employees in the succession planning here and add into the talent pool. So what I do is I go to succession planning here, and I'll select the position I was just setting up. Now, I can select any position, but unless I've done that configuration, I cannot add successors internally because it requires like the positions that they are looking at. So if I choose, let's say CEO, if I haven't configured this, when I go to add successors, I'm not going to see anybody because I haven't configured which jobs to look at. All right, so I do need to do that first step before I come over to here. Right, and I'll go ahead and add successor. And now it's going to look through all of those positions and the people in those positions, and I can add one or more. I might want to add them all. Maybe, let's say Wendell here is brand new to the company, so maybe give him a chance to get his feet under him before adding to the succession planning. But I can do whatever I like here. You'll notice here it does show a percentage match. What that's doing is looking at those skills and competencies and showing how much they match up with what I've required. Okay, so here you can see this in here. Now I can, of course, add others in here if I like. People can be added to multiple succession plans. So perhaps Ted would be good for CFO and CEO and Chief Marketing Officer. I don't know, but you can add them to multiple if you need to. I can now click into somebody and see their information. So here's the match, 28.57%. The readiness. So you might determine the readiness based off of the skills and competencies here. We're not doing this for you automatically. So you might say that, okay, he has these two skills. Right now, he doesn't have any of those competencies. So he's probably going to need a little bit of time to really get ready for that position. So you might say it's going to take him a year or two to do that. Now, he does have 29%. That might be the top candidate for whatever's going on at this time. So I could check that box off. I can also put in some notes here. Ted has shown great willingness to help out with month end. Whatever you might want to put down as your note. This is something you're going to see in the talent pool. It's not going to like show to Ted or something like that. So you'll be able to see that here. You might want to put notes down here about whatever's happening with Ted there. All right, you'll notice as I've done that, it's now put his readiness here and it shows him as a top candidate. I can then click on somebody else and just see what's going on. Now, I might say, well, wait a minute, why doesn't Ted have any competencies here? I may need to add those to him, or he might have some additional skills I don't know about that, need to be added. That's something that you could have the employees entering in through self-service. They can go in and add skills. You might have an approval on that. You could have those added as them taking courses. So those other skills that were required out there, maybe there are certain skills he's going to get because he's taken some courses. Or it could be something that you just add as an administrator. So how would you do that? I can go to an employee, and let's just click on this person and I'll search for Ted. And I can go down to his education and skills, and I can add in various skills that he might have. Now you see he has 4 of them here, but only 2 of them are showing on CFO because the others were not important. I didn't put German down there, and I didn't put general ledger as skills. Maybe I should have, but I didn't. And you'll see those there. Here I could put in those financial skills and what skill, let's say month-end closing, and he's really good at that, right? Because he's always willing to help out. And then you have to put a date here. It doesn't, of course, need to be like the actual date that he would receive this skill. If this would, if he did a course, it would put that there. But maybe he's just doing this over and over again. You're going to say, yeah, he has now gotten to that level, and you can put down whatever date makes sense to you if you don't have a specific date. Let's just say it was the end of February. All right, and we'll just go in and save that right there. Of course, I could add other skills that I would like here. Competencies, same idea. So I can go out here and say, here are some competencies that I know he has, and I can check those off on here. So maybe he's got this one and that right there. All right, so I could put those down as competencies. Now, when I go back to the talent pool, he's going to have even more of a match. Let me just refresh this. Now he's up at 71%. So this might, just based off that information, I might say that he is, he can get it very quickly. So now he's like, not only maybe he wasn't a top candidate before, but now he is. So you can see all those things on there and what he has. Now, as I mentioned, I may want to put these things out as in his career mapping. So that way, when he's looking at self-service, I can say, well, you need to take these courses and get these certifications, which might lead into getting these skills and competencies. So maybe there's some certain courses that would give him the skills for the CFO position. And so he can know, all right, if I take this course over here, I'll then know how to do this particular thing using an ERP. Maybe you got a training session, or there's something available from your vendor to learn how to use the ERP, or maybe there's a whole bunch of courses. And once he completes that series, he'll then have that training on that one there. So that's how you can add those skills in there through training as well. And of course, you can have other employees in here if you want to, say that, let's say Wendell is really good, and Brianna, you might have more than one top candidate. You can click on people and see their information if you need to. If somebody, is no longer eligible for this or going to be a successor, I can, let's say, remove Carl. Maybe he's just not, showing that drive or something like that. You're going to keep him around the company, but he's no longer considered a successor for this position. So you can remove somebody like that. As I mentioned, you can, of course, have multiple ones in here where you've got, other positions in here where you're, saying for the VP of these positions or something like that, you'll want to have those succession skills set up or succession plan set up. So again, that's over in the positions. All right, so that is that here. We do have some changes coming to succession planning where we're going to do a couple of little minor UI changes. Right now, it shows the position that they are a successor to. We're going to show their real position here. So that's a change that's coming down the road. We also are adding the ability to do external candidates. So perhaps you've got candidates that have applied for positions, or there might be people that you're tracking that are outside the company. Maybe there's a local chapter of this something, and you're following somebody closely, saying, that externally would be a good successor. So we're adding that ability to add external successors into here, and doing a little bit of cleanup also in where the skills and competencies are going to be. I believe we're moving them to the succession tab. So that'll be in there. I think it's in this updated. If it's not, it's going to be in the one in a couple of months. So that is coming down the road. Let me see if we've had any questions on this. I don't see any questions so far. So we're good there. This one was a quick one today. So I know there's, this is very useful for you, but we don't have, I'm not pushing up against the deadline here. I've got 8 minutes to go. So I did want to talk about this, but also I want to bring up, I was just mentioning, we do have a Q&A thing here. Let's see here. Can only admins update employee skills and competencies? So right now we do have the ability for the employee to put that in there. So you can, let me show you. You can have the employee come out to their skills and they could add that information right here. You could put an approval on here if you like. So you might say, the employee comes out here and says, you know what, I have these financial skills. You know, I'm satisfactory at it and I'm really good at using an ERP. You may not know that. So, he might say, I've been doing this for years. I've been doing this since 2009 or something like that. So he might add that in here. You could put an approval process on here. So it goes over to somebody, their manager, somebody in HR, training, something like that. But you could allow the employees to add these. We are adding the ability in this next update here, which I was going to talk about in a second, to view this stuff as the manager, so they can see the skills and stuff like that for the and certifications of their employees. So they're able to see that there. So you can do that there. And of course, I did show you as an admin being able to put that stuff there. So I can come out here and see this information, competencies. I can see it. I can't add it as an employee. Skills I can add. So if you would like to allow your employees to do that. And what you might do is if you're looking to roll this out, you might reach out to your employees and say, please update your skills. But the important thing is you may want to put a workflow on that. I'll talk about that here just real quick. You can add a workflow for employee skills. So maybe it goes to you or somebody who's going to review that information. You can set up your workflow for employee skill. So hopefully that answers that question there. Right now, I don't believe, well, at least I know today, managers or leaders cannot put in skills and competencies. I would have to check if it's in the release notes for our team skills and certifications, whether they have the ability to do that. I don't know if the person who was working on that can chime in real quick. I think Connor, you were working on that. He's muted. Maybe he's chatting.
Yeah, we can follow up on that one, Steve.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll follow up on that one and let you know. I don't recall if it is or not. So let's look at the upcoming schedule here if there's no other questions. And then we can end a little bit early today. I did want to point out first, before we talk about our upcoming webinars, is we do have the release webinar. I think an email went out or it's going to be going out, but you'll get a little sneak peek if you haven't received that email, or maybe you're not on our email list for the webinars. We do have the webinar release next Friday, 1 to 2. We're having our release webinar discussion of as many of the new features as I can fit in an hour. So hopefully you're able to attend that. If not, of course, we do record it and it will be in the release notes and stuff like that. So you'll be able to see that. We do also send out the release notes so you can kind of, read about that stuff ahead of time, but I'll go into detail on a number of things there. And then a few days after that, 2 weeks from now, we're going to go and talk about benefits. And then 2 weeks after that, we're going to talk about open enrollment. I figured it was a good time to talk about those. And then I will be bringing in topics from the release webinar in May. May 28th, we're going to be talking about some stuff that's in the release webinar. And I think we're going to add a few things into June as well. So I'll talk about them in the release webinar, but I'm going to go into detail on like the configuration and stuff a few weeks after that. So that is our upcoming calendar and upcoming schedule of events. I do want to remind you that you can reach out to support if you do have any questions there. You'll see the phone number and email address on the screen there. If you have questions, you can also hit the question mark in the administrative side of Criterion, and there's a little send in a support ticket button where you can send support tickets in to your success manager and the support team to help you out with any questions on succession planning or anything else you have questions on. So I do want to thank you for joining us today, and I appreciate the questions that came in, and hopefully I will see you all in about a week and a half when we talk about the release webinar. Thank you so much.